Hello, it's John Heaton, and today it's been a while since I reviewed a John Lennon album, and as we all know, there aren't too many of them, unfortunately. So I'm going to review this album today, Imagine, 1971's release, the follow-up to Plastic-Ono Band, and a big hit in the US and in the UK, whereas Plastic-Ono Band, very well reviewed, critically acclaimed, but didn't do too well chart-wise. So Lennon's made a deliberate attempt to produce a more, I wouldn't say commercial, but accessible album, and he's made more effort to make the arrangements more easier on the ear, shall we say. He's involved some strings on some tracks. Phil Spector is more involved here than he was on the previous album. And I'm going to, just before I show you, before I go through the tracks, I have my original copy on the wall behind me, signed by Yoko in a frame. The original poster, going yellow as you can see, with blue tack marks. I won't open it. It's in reasonably good condition considering how long I've had it. The original poster, which is obviously a parody of the Ram cover, again with blue tack marks on the back. And then the original inner sleeve had these words in circular form with the musician credits on the other side, and a nice idea but very difficult to read. The original edition was on this label, John's face, kind of in the shape of an apple at the top there, and then the white apple on the back. So that was the label in most countries. And then I think I showed you in one of my earlier videos, this is a Yugoslav copy I have with the back cover is the wrong way up, and this is on the green apple, which I'd never seen before until I picked this up quite recently in Hungary, so that was nice to see. So the original album, great front cover by the way, soft focus picture of John there with the clouds, and the back cover, again, iconic. Obviously a little bit sad given his violent death to see him lying on the back there, but anyway, lovely packaging. And then I picked up, this is the new vinyl, 180 gram vinyl with the reproduced in a sleeve. It's cleaner, but it's just as difficult to read as it was before, and it's on the same label. And then the poster, brand new copy of the poster, and brand new copy of the, not only this postcard, the laminated this one, the Ram parody, but this one, which I think appeared in later editions, replacing the Ram parody. And I think this picture, because this postcard is in Postcards from the Boys, the Ringo book, and the original picture before it had Jon and Yoko's faces put on it, was in some museum in Budapest. So I haven't actually checked out the picture in whichever museum it was, the Fine Arts Museum I think it was, but we'll get around to that someday. So to the album. Well, it starts off, by the way, one thing up front I'd like to say, any criticism I make of this album is very minor criticism, because by any standards this is in the top echelons of solo albums. I know we've had a lot of people doing their rankings recently, and I did my own Lennon solo rankings, and it might vary from week to week or day to day, year to year. But at the end of the day, Imagine is up there amongst the very best Beatles solo efforts. And just think of it, if you were to meet a Martian who came down to Earth, said, give me some Earth music, obviously you'd play him the Beatles. And if he asks, well, what about after they split up? Presuming he knew that they split up, then you might be tempted to give him Imagine, among others. So, it starts off with the title track, and it's just a timeless classic, beautiful in its simplicity, and yes, it is in the key of C, and it's not very difficult to play on the piano, etc., but it's just wonderful chords and just a timeless lyric. And yeah, maybe he was a bit optimistic to imagine this kind of utopia, and maybe it's not too realistic, but all he's saying is, he doesn't say he's got the answer, all he's saying is imagine, and that's what makes it the kind of song which, as we've already seen, it's already being played 45 years after its release, and I think it will be continued to be played for decades to come. I think it was played at the closing ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics as well. So, you know, it may be been overplayed on the radio, but it's just a brilliant track, and I can't say enough about it. Next track is Crippled Inside, which is a jaunty little number with great piano from Nicky Hopkins, and the kind of bouncy rhythm and tune maybe hides a nasty lyric aimed at someone or other. It could be Paul, it could be just so-called straight people who wear a collar and a tie and who go to work, and maybe the kind of people he was aiming Day Tripper at, you know, weekend hippie type people, I don't know. But amusing lyric, I wouldn't say it was nasty. And then Jealous Guy is next, which was not a single in Lennon's lifetime, but Brian Ferry, Roxy Music, had a hit with it after Lennon died, and it's pretty much gone down in Lennon's catalogue as a classic. Lovely piano from Nicky Hopkins, and nice string arrangement from Phil Spector. Maybe a little bit too lush on the strings, but that's again minor criticism. It's a lovely tune. This one was started off as a song called Child of Nature in India, as a kind of companion piece to Paul's Mother Nature's Son, also written in India. So when it came to the White Album, they had a choice they didn't want to put both of them on because they were a bit too similar to each other. So they chose Mother Nature's Son, and then John held back this one and then turned it into Jealous Guy with new lyrics. And the lyrics show his vulnerability and his apologising to Yoko for being maybe not the most attentive husband, and as he says, you know, I was feeling insecure, you might not love me anymore, so, you know, I'm a jealous guy. He's very honest in this song. So that brings us on to It's So Hard, which is a nice rocker, ups the tempo a bit on the album, and it's pretty much a straight blues type track, but nice raunchy electric guitar, more reminiscent of the first solo album, and I really like this track. Then side one closes with I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, which maybe most people think is the weak link on the album. Probably goes on too long, but it's got a nice mood to it and very meaningful lyrics, albeit a tad repetitive. But, you know, they get a nice big production sound on this, and as I think me and Mr. Mayo said, it's well placed at the end of side one. So if you want to skip it, you can. But generally, I don't skip it, although it does probably go on a bit too long. And then side two opens with Give Me Some Truth, which is just a brilliant rocker and brilliant sort of ad-libbed lyrics, or sort of kind of fast train of thought lyrics, a bit similar to Across the Universe, but this is up-tempo, and you know, son of Tricky Dicky, reference to President Nixon, and hypocritics instead of hypocrites. That's quite a clever line as well. And what really makes this song is George's guitar solo. George Harrison is on this album playing guitar on 4 or 5 tracks, and the solo he does on this album is just absolutely brilliant. And I hate to try and compare this album to Plastic Ono Band, but this is the one advantage this album does have over Plastic Ono Band is it features George Harrison on guitar, and that's no small thing, because he really, I think Lennon himself said it's George's best solo of his career, and I wouldn't disagree. I think it is, you know, it's the slide guitar which George was famous for more or less after the split, and stinging in its delivery and perfectly complementing the lyric. I love it. And then Oh My Love is probably, up there in Lennon's top ballads ever. Beautiful tune, actually co-written with Yoko, this one, and lovely arrangement with Nicky Hopkins and John on piano, and George Harrison producing some very tasteful acoustic guitar. And it really is a classic ballad, as I say, in his top 5, I think. And then we get the curio of the album, How Do You Sleep, which is kind of out of character with the rest of the album because it's very much aimed at Paul McCartney. What I will say is, the lyrics aside, it is a brilliant song, brilliant tune, brilliantly delivered, brilliantly played, and again a top drawer guitar solo from George Harrison. Klaus Voormann's on bass, and it's a funky track. And if it wasn't for the association with Paul, I think it would have gone down as one of his all-time classics. I think the Fab Four Free for All channel made a good point when they said that if John had kind of made it more anonymous, the attack, and maybe attacked politicians or people screwing up the planet and that kind of thing, and then it really could have been gone down in history as one of John's all-time best songs. As it is, it's a little bit dated because John wasn't feeling very angry towards Paul after this, and even during the sessions he said he wasn't feeling that angry, just wanted to make a funky track. And but in print it looks terrible, as he said. The only thing you've done was yesterday, but since you're gone, you're just another day, which is quite amusing as a rhyme, but obviously a dig at Paul's first solo single. And then those freaks were right when they said you was dead. The one mistake you made was in your head. It sounds appalling, if you listen to it. But I think I forgive John for this one, and he and Paul made up in later years and got over it. And John later said he was attacking himself, which I don't buy that, but anyway. At least he kind of apologised, or said it wasn't really about Paul at all, which is not true. But anyway, I'm really glad that they made up, because it was a very unpleasant period for Beatles fans. Not that I was old enough to remember, but reading all the books this period in the year after the split, they were slagging each other off on their albums and in the music press, and really had to stop. And thankfully, towards the end of '71, it did stop, and they both called a truce. So then we have How, the next track, which is a nice ballad, maybe not in the same quality as Oh My Love or Jealous Guy. The strings, I think, are a little bit slushy on this one. He obviously was trying to put chocolate, as he said, this is Plastic Ono Band with chocolate on it for conservatives like yourself. That was a remark aimed at McCartney. It's a bit of a cloying arrangement with the strings, and a little bit reminiscent of Long and Winding Road, the way the strings come in. But the middle 8 section, life can be long and you've got to be so strong, is very nice. And this is not a bad song. It's just in comparison to the other ballads on the album, it's maybe not quite of the same standard. And then we have the final track, Oh Yoko, which many people wanted to release as a single in the record company, and Lennon vetoed it, saying, I don't know, maybe he felt it was too sentimental or something, or it didn't suit his image. But here he is singing a very romantic lyric, in the middle of a shave, I call your name, oh Yoko. Lovely piano from Nicky Hopkins, and very well played. A little bit of harmony vocal from Phil Spector, as you saw in as you can see in the documentary of the making of this album. And just a joyous closer to the album, great loud acoustic guitars, and great way to close the album. I'm going to give this album a 10 out of 10. I really can't fault it, or if I can fault it, we're talking extremely minor criticism. Overall, John Lennon's Imagine classic album. Thank you for watching. See you next time.